Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, let's start with the prayers. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharyamadhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Sada Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitama Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Vasudevendra Yogiram Natva Jnanapradam Mumukshunam Hitaya Tattva-bodho Bhidiyate. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay. So, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
getting clearly.
Okay. So, last time we started Sukshma Shariram. We saw this verse. I'll come back to this in a moment. And we saw Sukshma Shariram in 4 aspects, right? What are the 4 aspects? 4 points?
The condition, cause, function, and nature and the constituents.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the condition of Sukshma Shariram?
Sukshma.
Subtle.
Indriya
It is
Agochara.
subtle. It is Indriya Agochara. Then
Invisible
the cause.
and-
What is the Samanya Karanam? The general cause?
The 5 gross elements.
Gross
The
elements?
Sukshma
5 subtle
Pancha
elements.
Bhutani.
The Sukshma Pancha Bhutani. Okay. The subtle 5 elements. And what is the Vishesha Karanam? The specific cause?
It's
The
that same
Purvajanam.
karma, punyam papam.
Yes,
The
the
karma.
karma from the previous lives. The Purva Janma karma. Then next one is the function. So first of all, where is Sukshma Shariram located? Where does it reside?
In the Sthula Sharira.
Yes, in the Sthula Sharira. It needs a place to be, right? So that place is the physical body, the Sthula Shariram. And what does it do once it is in the body, in the physical body?
Life. The ability to experience and gives it life.
Yes, the ability to experience or interact with the external world. So it is the instrument for experiencing. Then 4th one, the nature. What is the nature of Sukshma Shariram?
Subject to Shadvikara.
Savikara.
Shadvikara?
Savikara.
Savikara, correct. It is of a changing nature, but we don't use Shadvikara. Shadvikara is for physical body. Okay. It is of a changing nature and it has a much longer life than Sthula Shariram. When does Sukshma Shariram get destroyed?
At Videha Mukti.
At Videha Mukti. Correct. Okay, so not Moksha, you have to specify Videha Mukti. Because Moksha, you can be talking about Jivan Mukti also or Videha Mukti also. And it is obviously not Jivan Mukti because the Jnani still has the Sukshma Shariram and that is how the Jnani is able to interact with the world, right? But at Videha Mukti, then we can say Sukshma Shariram is as if destroyed. Okay. Now, the last point was the constituents which we were seeing. How many constituents are there for Sukshma Shariram?
As per the text 17, but you had told us that it's 19.
Yes. It is 19, but here in the text only 17 are mentioned. We don't know why. It could be that it's lost in the manuscript, or it could be the author had some reason, or he just assumed that the other two are included in the ones mentioned already. So we don't know why. Okay, but other texts do mention 19. There are 2 more. So we will see all 19 here in the class. So this was the verse, and I hope you remember. We'll just quickly look over it again. So Sukshma Shariram Kim, what is Sukshma Sharira? Apanchikrita Pancha Mahabhutai. Okay, so Apanchikrita means the subtle, the non-grossified elements. So Apanchikrita, the non-grossified Pancha Mahabhuta, the non-grossified 5 elements, Kritam, composed of. So it is composed of the subtle 5 elements. Sat Karmajanyam, born out of the previous life's karma. Okay, so there's a line that says, your destiny is the sum total of all your past actions. So if you ever wonder, where is destiny? Where is this coming from in my life? Then it is just the sum total of all the past actions that you have ever done. Not just in this life, but every life that you have ever lived. Okay, then Sukha Dukkhadi Bhoga Sadhanam. Sadhanam here means instrument. Bhoga Sadhanam means instrument for experience. And what kind of experiences? They can be Sukha, Dukkha, Adi. Pleasure, pain, etc. Then this from here to here is the constituents. So what he calls as Saptadasha Kalabhihi. Saptadasha means 17. In Sanskrit, Saptadasha means 17, the number 17. Kalabhihi means constituents or components. Okay. And what are those 17? Here he has listed them. Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Pranadayaha, Manaschaikam, Buddhishchaika. Pancha Jnanendriyani is 5 Jnanendriya, the sense organs. Then Pancha Karmendriyani is 5 organs of action. Then 5 prana, 5 types of prana. Then Manaschaikam, it actually breaks as Manaha Cha Ekam. There are actually 3 words over here. Manaha Cha Ekam. Buddhihi Cha Eka. Eka means 1. Okay, so there is 1 Manaha and there is 1 Buddhihi. That is what he's telling. So when you add it, Pancha plus Pancha plus Pancha plus Ekam plus the other Ekam, you get 17. Okay. Saha yat tishtati, that which is there in this way with all of these constituents, that entity is called as Sukshma Shariram. Now today we will look at the constituents, the Saptadasha Kalabhihi, in little more detail. So we had just started in the last class. So we started with the 5 Jnanendriyani, 5 sense organs. Now, sense organs are the input organs. They give you information about the external world. Okay, and how many of those we have? We have 5, and they are ears, skin, eyes, tongue, nose. Shrotram, Tvak, Chakshuhu, Rasana, Ghranam, iti pancha jnanendriyani. We saw this last time. And we also discussed about the distinction between Golakam and Indriyam. Right? Golakam is the physical or anatomical part, whereas the Indriyam is the Shakti behind that Golakam that makes it operational. Okay, so the Golakam is the part that you can see. If I say eye, you can see the eye, right? But there is a seeing power to that eye. And that seeing power is the Indriyam. That is the Chakshu Indriyam. Okay, so we saw this till here. And now today we will move to the next part. We'll read this. So you can unmute yourself. And then we can just read this and discuss. Shrotrasya Digdevata
Shrotrasya
Shrotrasya devata
Vacho Vayuhu
Vayuhu
Chakshusha Suryaha
Chakshusha Suryaha
Rasanaya Varunaha
Rasanaya Varunaha
Granasya Ashvinau
Granasya Ashvinau
Iti Jnanendriya Devataha.
Iti Jnanendriya Devataha.
Okay, so now we are going to be discussing a topic called Devata. In English, we can translate it as presiding deities. Okay, Devata. Now, all of us we'll take for example the eyes. Okay, we'll start with the eyes. Now, all of us can see, right? And we know that some people have very sharp eyesight. And we know that some people have little weak eyesight, right? So everybody has a range. So in the seeing faculty, everybody has a finite amount of seeing power. Okay, everybody has a finite amount of seeing power. That means we can see only in a limited way. For example, if you take the human species, so we have a certain range, right? Some people see better, some people see less, but on the whole, if you take a range, then there is some range we can see. Now, those of you who know about the electromagnetic spectrum, you know that it is a very big spectrum. There's a large portion. And in that, a very tiny portion, that Vibgyor portion, that is all that humans can see. Right? We cannot see beyond, we cannot see behind the previous portion also. So in the middle, somewhere one tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, that much only we can see with our eyes. But there are some other species and they are able to detect little more, right? They are able to see a little more than human beings. For example, if you take the hearing power, we all know dogs and cats have better hearing power than human beings, right? Sometimes they turn, even though we have not heard anything, they have heard and they turn and they look at different things. And if you have seen bats can sense infrared and some other part. They use a different mechanism, a slightly different mechanism, which means they have a little more range than human beings. So everybody has some finite portion of that seeing power or hearing power, whichever one of them. Okay, we'll talk about seeing power. Now, when you take the totality of the seeing power of the universe, the whole totality of the whole universe, not just Earth, okay, the whole universe, we don't know what else is out there. So everything, the totality of the seeing power, that totality is called Devata. That totality corresponding to that power is called Devata. Okay, so this is a new definition of Devata for many of you. So I would recommend putting aside the previous understanding of the word Devata. Just put it aside, otherwise it will cause confusion. And remember that this totality of the seeing power is called the seeing Devata. Okay, and like that for every part. The hearing faculty, if we take, then that hearing Devata is also there. So it is that power at the macro level. So what we have is a small portion of that power at some micro level. And when you look at that power from a macro level, that is Devata. Okay, so this is the concept of Devata. And here the author has listed the names of different Devatas for the different organs. So he says, Shrotrasya Dig Devata. So the Devata for Shrotra, that is the ears, is called Dig Devata. Dig Devata. Okay, when you combine it becomes Dig Devata. And Tvacho. Tvacho is the skin. The Devata's name is Vayuhu. Chakshushaha. For eyes, Chakshu, the Devata is Surya Devata. For Rasana, that is the taste faculty, the Devata is Varunaha. And Granasya is the sense of smell. It is Ashwinau. Right? And then this is Iti Jnanendriya Devataha. These are the Devata for Jnanendriya. Okay, so I will pause here if you have any questions.
Oh, Medhaji, I have a
Yeah.
question over here.
Yeah.
We have been speaking about the different devtas over here. So what actually is the significance of having this delineation of devtas for various Gyanendriyas or Karmendriyas? So what is Shankaracharya, what is our scriptures actually trying to tell us, and how does that become relevant in our daily life and day-to-day understanding of this? I do understand that we say that we pray to a particular devta and the devta gives us the boon for moving in that area, but I would still like to know from you.
For you as a mumukshu on the path of Jnanam, not much relevance. Okay, this is all just secondary information. Okay,
Okay,
but
thank you.
But if they do say that it is believed that if you pray to particular devatas, then that particular weakness or illness in that organ can be resolved, or that organ can be strengthened by praying to particular devatas. So this is just a kind of a classification, simply to understand the Anatma world.
Right.
That is all.
Thank you.
Medhali,
Yes.
who are these Ashwinau?
Ashwinau is the name for the of the devata for the sense of smell. Ashwini Kumaraha.
These are two of them, Ashwinau.
Yes, two of them, because you have two nostrils.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? So this devata concept.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
These devatas are different from the Surya, the sun, Vayu, the air. They are
Yes.
different.
They're different. Don't think of Surya as the sun that you see in the sky. Then there is going to be
Yes.
a lot of problem in the mind. You cannot
Yeah.
really reconcile. So that is
Okay.
why I said it is the total seeing power. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Medhaji.
Yeah.
So, how are these devatas different from Surya Devata or Janmarandra, Banda, or all these other devatas that are there?
You mean from the Puranic stories that
Yes.
the stories that we hear that okay, they did this and they did that. Is that what you're asking? Okay, so okay, fine. This is a topic that takes some time to understand. Okay, and I struggled with it quite a bit before I came to terms with it. It's a little abstract and a little confusing topic. So at this stage, for those of you who are getting confused, one idea is to keep these two things separate. Okay, at this stage, it is okay if you look at this definition, that is that totality of the power. This is Devata, and these are the names of those Devatas. Keep this portion aside. And the portion that you have heard, all the stories, okay, Indra did this, Surya did this, and all those stories that come in Mahabharata and the other Puranas, those stories you keep it aside and do not try to mix the two. It will cause confusion. But if you do want to see if there is a connection, so it takes time to understand. So I'll tell you, but it's okay if you don't understand. Okay. So I did ask SPG about this, and what he said was, you think of the Prime Minister. Okay, let us say Prime Minister of India. Now, when you say Prime Minister, is it a post or is it a person?
Post.
It's a
Post.
post.
It's a post, right? If I ask you, show me this post, is it somewhere there physically?
No. No.
No, it is an invisible thing. It is an invisible entity, right? The post of Prime Minister. But the post of Prime Minister, does it have certain powers associated with it?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. It has some executive power, some administrative powers. Some power is given to the post of Prime Minister. Now there is a Jiva, the person who comes and fills that post. Okay, presently, for example, we have Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, right? So there are two things here. There is the Prime Minister post and there is the Jiva who is Narendra Modi, right?
Yeah.
Two things are there. Now, if you ask me, tell me about Narendra Modi, teach me about Narendra Modi, then I will tell you, okay, this is his life history. He did this, he went there to these places and all those things, right? It's a different story. Suppose you tell me about the Prime Ministership of India. Then would I tell you the same Narendra Modi story or would I tell you a different story?
No, you will tell different. Definitely.
Yes, I will tell, okay, Prime Minister is a post of India. It is the highest post. It is like this. It has this power. And under Prime Minister, there are so many ministers. And the Prime Minister's power is divided between those ministers. You have a finance minister who takes care of finance, home minister who takes care of this, education minister who takes care of something else. And so this Prime Minister's power is kind of delegated or divided between that lower level of ministers.
Right.
And under them, there are further subordinates, and that power is further divided between them, right?
Yes.
Do you see? So now there is the Jiva, Narendra Modi, who is currently acting as Prime Minister. And then there is a post of Prime Minister, which has a certain bunch of powers, certain administration or certain executive kind of powers, which you cannot see. But we say that, yes, the post has power. Okay. So now, right now, when we talk about Devatas and we say Chakshusha Suryaha, we are talking about the post, not the Jiva occupying that post.
Okay.
Okay.
But Medhaji, I have a question.
Yeah.
Although it is just the post which is representing a particular.
Preetiji, I cannot hear you. I think you have to come closer to the mic.
Just as there is a post that is being attributed to a function, but there are functionalities to that name Surya. Unless the Surya dispenses light, one cannot see. So there are attributes of that Devata which enable those functions to happen. Like
Yes.
value and touch. There is an attribute to value which enables us to feel that touch.
Yes.
So can it be delinked so completely? There is an attribute of Surya
Pani
which
garam.
enables us to see.
So see, you take the same Prime Minister example. If there is no Jiva acting as Prime Minister, does that post mean anything? Can it do anything? Nothing. A Jiva has to come, has to occupy this Prime Minister post, and then the functioning of the Prime Minister begins. In the same way, okay, so the Puranic stories, we are talking about you think of it as talking about the Jiva portion. And right now, we are not very interested in the Jiva. We are interested only in the what the post signifies. If you ask me only about what is Prime Ministership of India, I will tell you whatever I know about it, right? How much ever there is this post, it's a, whatever powers associated. So right now we are discussing only the powers and that part of it. That is this definition.
Thank you.
Okay. So when it comes to the Puranas, then we may look at it slightly differently. But it's okay if you want to keep the two things separate, because it takes time to resolve those two things and understand. So at this moment, we are not concerned about the other part. We are only concerned with what is the post of Surya Devata. So we said it is the total seeing power of the universe. So you can think of these devatas as kind of administrative posts for the universe, for the functioning of the universe, the whole creation.
So essentially, Medhaji, what you're saying is that all this, whatever we are reading about in the three bodies, because it's dealing with the anatma, that's why this entire process of keeping the names of devtas and everything, it is meant for those who want to understand the anatma and the concept and everything behind the jiva and the
Yes.
sagun Ishwar. Is that the entire
Yes.
component which comes under Maya, is it?
Yes. So whenever we are talking about anatma, we are always going to classify. Okay, whether you look at modern science or even all these scriptural sciences, whenever you look at them, you will always find different classifications. You go even to medical science right now, and they will classify into so many branches, right? And under each branch, there will be further classification. Even if you just look at human body, they will classify again, right, into different things at a cellular level, at a organ level, at some other level. They will, whenever you take anatma, you are always going to make it piece, dissect it, so that your intellect can understand and grasp it. Only through this kind of division, the intellect is able to understand. The intellect needs to classify and to divide in order to understand.
Medhaji, so like prime ministership, there are multiple people occupying that post. Are there multiple people occupying the post of Indra Devta, Surya Devta, etc.?
No, I've just taken Prime Ministership of India. Did I say
No,
all
no.
countries?
May I add something here, Medhaji?
Yeah.
Everybody, including Brahma or all devatas, they have lifespan. It is not a permanent post.
It's not a permanent post. Yes.
That is, you said that already. So that from that point of view, Brahma in charge of one grand yuga cycle of many yugas is different from the next grand cycle. Next grand cycle, it goes on like that. And
The jiva
each
is different, yes.
and each devata, you may look up it like this. My understanding, service provider. If you want an internet service provider, that's a company designated. You are given a username and password. Then you get the service. Same way, mantra, tantra, yantra. There's a three upayam for us, by which you can have the inscriptions, your username and your password. Then you get the service from the deity in charge. That's how the whole thing is arranged.
Possible, but since this is life hack into anatma, we as
Yeah.
Vedantins
In
are
the
not so
anatma
bothered.
domain, it could be very well be like this.
It
But
could be, yes.
mantra, tantra, and yantra, they all come under the karma kanda.
Yes,
They are
they
not
are
part
not
of the.
so.
They're
Yeah.
like the passwords for the deity to accept and give you the service.
It's possible, but as Vedantins, we don't want anything from the devatas, right? We only want moksha.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, Megha
Yes,
ji.
Deepa Verma, your
Yeah,
hand is raised.
Megha ji, we talk about so many things, but we never talk about brain. Actually, the brain is connected with all these sense organs. So why we never talk about brain? We talk about ear, we talk about eye, we talk about so many things, but we never talk about brain.
Brain is Golakam or Indriyam. The brain that you can see. We can't see, but suppose, the skull is open. Then Golakam or Indriyam? Why is it Golakam?
Because it's a physical organ.
Because it's a physical organ. How do you know it's a physical organ? Because you can see it.
See it.
Yes. So it is not an Indriyam at all.
But brain control all these organs.
It is just the mechanism of operation. That is all. But it is not an Indriyam by itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Kartika.
Ma'am, so when we're doing Surya Namaskar,
Yes.
so which is the Surya that we are referring to in that context?
You can take it whichever way. It doesn't. You can take it as the sun that you see. You can take it as this Surya Devata. You can take it however you like.
Okay.
I don't know with what, I have not found an authentic source that tells that Surya Namaskara was designed for this particular this thing. So everyone who talks about it, they just talk from their own understanding. I have not found a very authentic or proper lineage anybody talking about this. So maybe there is, but I don't know it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I would say it is a Mano Bhavana which empowers the deity you invoke.
Yes, it is finally the mind. What you choose as the sankalpa in your mind, that is what will, direct that prayer.
Oh, Medhaji, can we infer that the whole concept of anatma and the world and the universe that we live in is actually mithya? So it's just a simple thought concept, and that it appears as grossification and real to us because we are identified with it. So the whole thing is just simply a thought process and a concept only, because it's all about energy and everything in the whole anatma atmosphere.
Yes. So when you go to higher and advanced Vedanta texts, you will find that the world exists only in your mind.
Right.
I would say
The world is only a thought in your mind. It is only a vritti.
Now, I would say it's a virtual reality program with the Vishnu in his dream world. We are all characters, and each one thinks we are doing, and we are getting caught, and we are suffering, we are enjoying it.
I agree with
So
that.
There is a saying that if you are not here to observe the world, does the world exist for you?
Not at all.
So it exists only in your mind.
Exactly.
What you think of this world, what we see around, everything looks very solid, very real, but it is only real because it is a vritti in your mind, a thought in your mind. And that is all that it has for the basis of existence for you. Okay, this is from, when you look at it from Jiva point of view. Okay, so anyway, those are advanced topics that you will see much later on, which will turn your whole thinking upside down. And it's quite fun, but we'll leave that for later. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next. We can read this. Shrotrasya Vishaya Shabdagrahanam.
Shrotrasya Vishaya Shabdagrahanam.
Vacho Vishaya Sparshagrahanam.
Vacho Vishaya Sparshagrahanam.
Chakshusho Vishaya Rupagrahanam.
Chakshusho Vishaya Rupagrahanam.
Rasanaya Vishaya Rasagrahanam.
Rasanaya Vishaya Rasagrahanam.
Granasya Vishaya Gandagrahanam iti.
Granasya Vishaya Gandagrahanam iti.
Okay, now we are going to be talking about the Vishaya. Here, the word Vishaya means the function of that particular organ or the field of operation of that particular organ. So whenever you see the word Vishaya in association with a sense organ, remember that we are talking about the function of that organ. So Shrotrasya Vishaya means the function of ears. What is the function of ears? Shabda Grahanam, capturing the sound. Now remember that the word Shabda means sound and not word. Okay, in Hindi, the word Shabda means word. So we are not talking only about words because the ears capture all kinds of sound, not just words, right? So here when they say Shabda Grahanam, it means the sound. Grahanam means to grasp or to capture. Then Tvacho Vishaya Sparsha Grahanam, the function of Tvachaha. Tvachaha is the organ of touch. Sparsha. Sparsha is the sensation of touch. So it captures the sensation of touch. Now this twach, the twak, the organ of touch, that is kind of a unique and peculiar organ because it is not localized in one place. It is all over the body in the form of skin, right? Skin is the one that is able to, capture that touch, right? So it is all over the body and not localized in one place. So all the other organs are localized in one place. The eyes have the seeing function, ears have the hearing function, but skin is all over the body. Then when they say sparsha, it includes two things: the texture of an object, whether it is rough, whether it is smooth, that kind of thing. And the other is temperature also. Hot and cold also we are able to detect with our skin, right? So two things, these both are the texture as well as the temperature, both are captured. Then chakshusho vishaya rupa grahanam. Chakshu is the eyes, vishaya is function, rupa is the form. So when we say form, again it includes two things: the form, which is the shape of an object, as well as color. Both are seen by eyes. So both are included when we say rupa. So it captures or sees rupa, this form and the color. Then rasanaya vishaya rasagrahanam. Rasanaya is the tongue, the organ of taste. Now, another interesting and peculiar thing about the tongue is that actually in the tongue, there are two senses. There is the sense of sparsha and the sense of rasa. Okay, so that is why when you put something on your tongue, you are able to first sense whether it is smooth, whether it has a rough texture. Then you're also able to sense the temperature. Is this hot or is this cold? So that is because of the twach, the twak. So the tongue has twak, that is sparsha grahanam, and it has rasa grahanam. Then it can taste the taste of that object. Is this salty? Is this sweet? So it has sparsha grahanam and it has rasa grahanam. So the tongue is special because it has two senses in one place. Okay. Then Ghranasya Vishaya. Ghrana is the nose, the organ of smell. And what can the organ of smell detect? Obviously, smell. So Gandha Grahanam. So iti. These are the functions or the field of sense organs. So this is fairly straightforward and we all have experiential knowledge about this. So there's not much to discuss here. If there are any questions, we can quickly cover them and move on to the next one. Okay, so shall we move on?
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Shrotra, the Shabda Grahanam, that is sensing the sound or capturing the sound. But what about the silence? Can it be felt by the Shrotra?
Well, it's an absence of sound. So it's not, you cannot call it as Shabda Grahanam. It is just when there is absence of sound. Yes, that is also known.
Yes.
But
Silence
yes,
is experience most of the time.
Yes, if there is a deaf person, all he ever knows is silence, right? So we cannot say it is the absence of something because it is also a known quantity. But nor can we say
Maybe
it is
there's sound, but we are not able to catch it.
Yes, that's also possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, So now we come to the organs of action. We'll read this. Vak pani pada.
Vakpanipada.
Payupasthaniti.
Payupasthaniti.
Panchakarmendriyani.
Panchakarmendriyani.
Okay, organs of action, karmendriyani. Now these are like the output gates. Okay, so these are the organs with which you interact with the world. So the sense organs get information about the world, and the organs of action are able to interact with the world. So it is kind of an output. Okay, so we have 5 karmendriyani, the 5 organs of action, and here the author has listed them. There are 5 words here. Okay, Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upasthaha, Upasthana, and Iti. Iti means this is the end of the list. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upasthana. So these are the 5 organs of action. And in English, they are: Vak is the mouth or the organ of speech. Pani is the hands. Pada is the feet or the legs, the organ of movement, you can say. Payu is the organ of evacuation, excretion. Upasthaha is the organ of reproduction. Okay, so again, I will repeat, we are not talking about the golakams. We are not talking about the physical part that you can see. We are talking about the invisible power behind those parts that makes those parts operational. So the invisible power that gives the power to the hands to do what they do. The invisible power that gives the mouth the ability to speak. Okay, so like this. So Vak, organ of speech. Pani, the hands, the organ of grasping things. Pada, the organ of movement. Payu, organ of excretion. Upasthaha, organ of reproduction. Okay. So we'll look at the presiding deities. There's not much to discuss here because we have already discussed almost all these points in the previous one, the sense organs. So again, when we say Devata, we are talking about the total power corresponding to that faculty. Okay. So we can read this. Vacho Devata Vanhihi.
Vacho Devata Vanhihi.
Hastayorindra.
Hastayorindra.
Padayor Vishnuhu.
Padayor Vishnuhu.
Payor Mrityuhu.
Payor Mrityuhu.
Upastasya Prajapatihi.
Upastasya Prajapatihi.
Iti Karmendriya Devataha.
Iti Karmendriya Devataha.
Okay, so you all already know what is a Devata, and now we will see the names of the Devata for different organs. Vacho Devata. Vak is the organ of speech, and the Devata is called Vanhihi or Agnihi. Vanhi and Agni are same, so Agnihi. Then Hastayoho. Hastayoho is the hands. The yoho indicates dual case in Sanskrit because there are 2 hands, right? So Hastayoho is Indraha. The name is Indraha. Then Padayoho. Padayoho, again the yoho indicates dual case. That means there are 2 of them. So 2 legs are there, right? And the Devata is called Vishnuhu. And then Payor Mrityuhu. The organ for Payu, that is the organ of excretion, is Mrityuhu. Mrityuhu is Yamadharmaraja. Then Upastasya Prajapatihi. For Upastaha, the organ of reproduction, it is Prajapati. Okay, and these are the Karmendriya Devata. Okay. We'll now look at the functions, the Vishaya of each of these. We'll read this.
Meghaji,
Yeah.
may I ask something? When here we are saying Devata, but when we talk of speech, we also say Saraswati is the Devi of speech.
Yes, some places they mention Saraswati also. So Saraswati also, and even one more, some the Brahmapat, Brahaspati also is sometimes included for speech. So you will find a few differences in different places.
Okay, thank you.
So now we can see the function. We'll read this. Vacho Vishaya Bhashanam.
Vacho Vishaya Bhashanam.
Payor Vishaya Vastu Grahanam. Padayor Vishaya Gamanam. Payor Vishaya Malatyagaha. Upastasya Vishaya Ananda iti. Okay. So, those who can understand basic Sanskrit, you should be able to follow this. It's quite simple actually. So, Vacho Vishaya, the function of Vak, that is the organ of speech, is Bhashanam. Bhashanam is to speak. So, organ of speech, what does it do? Speaks. Panayor Vishaya. What do the hands do? The pani, the hands, what do they do? Vastu Grahanam. Vastu is object, Grahanam is to grasp. So they are able to hold and handle different objects. Then Padayor Vishaya Gamanam. What do the legs do? What is the function of legs? Gamanam, movement, the ability to move around, travel around. Then Payor Vishaya Malatyagaha. Payu, what is the function of Payu? Malatyaga. Mala means waste. Tyaga is to get rid of or to remove. So the elimination of waste is the function of the organ of excretion. Then Upastasya Vishaya. The function of Upastaha, the organ of reproduction, is Ananda. Here, this Ananda has to be taken as the happiness associated with parenthood. So when one's position in life is elevated to that of a parent, there is a certain happiness associated with that, right? There's a sense of, okay, the lineage continues, or there is a sense of immortality associated with having children. So this is the sense of Ananda, which is got about through having children. Okay. So again, this is also fairly straightforward and not much to discuss. So with this Karmendriya is done. Now the next topic is the Prana, Pancha Prana. Now this Pancha Prana is not available in the Tattvabodha text. So it's probably lost in the manuscript, we don't know, but it is not mentioned in Tattvabodha. But still, we will see it here in the class. The author has only mentioned the name, but he has not further elaborated and discussed. Okay, so Pancha Prana, there are 5 types of prana. Prana are the physiological systems of the body, the functioning of the body, you can say. Okay, the power center of the body that makes the body operational, that does certain activities in the body to keep it alive. Now, there are 5 of these prana. So they are pranaha, apanaha, vyanaha, samanaha, and udanaha. Pranaha is the respiratory system. Apanaha is the evacuation system. Vyanaha is the circulatory or the transport system. Samanaha is the digestive system or the conversion from one form to another form when you have to convert. Samanaha. And udanaha is the emergency system in the body. Emergency means when there is a problem with the body goes into a emergency reaction, right? For example, if something enters the nose, then you sneeze. That sneeze is an emergency reaction to that thing entering. So that is udanaha. When there is fever, when there is diarrhea, when there is vomiting, all of this is udanaha because it is emergency. Something has happened and now the body needs to rectify. So all of this purging, all this that happens is udanaha. So this is the 5 types of prana which correspond with the 5 major physiological systems of the body. Now, you can see here that there is prana here in the heading also, and there is prana here also. So don't get confused. Many times they just say prana, but you have to know which prana. Are we talking about the sub prana or the main heading prana? Okay, so it's based on different contexts that the word prana can be used. So it is the same name, but here we are talking about the sub prana, which is the respiratory system. And here we're talking about the pancha prana, which is the topic heading for all these 5. Okay, so different places, it will be different contexts, and you have to be clear which one we are talking about. Okay. Any questions?
Omedaji.
Yes.
So regarding when we talk about the field of activity of the organs of action, when we talk about the field of or the function of elimination, it's in general, for example, urine, material feces, and exhalation when we exhale air. All these are considered as in the same organ of activity, is the same field of activity.
Yes. Again, I will remind you that we are not talking about golakams, whether it is prana or whether it is the karmendriya. We are not talking about the physical organs at all. We are talking about the power of the operation of these things. So when you say excretion, then we are talking about the different ways of disposal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so there is one last topic and there's very little time, but still I would like to finish it so that next class we can start fresh. The next topic is the Antakaranam. So we have finished 15 out of 19 and 4 remain, and those 4 come under the heading of Antakaranam. Antakaranam, it means inner instrument, which we call as the mind. In English, we don't have many words for this, okay? But in Sanskrit, we have different terminologies for different aspects of the mind. In English, there is only one general word. So when we say Antakaranam, we are referring to the whole mind. Okay, all the parts of the mind, the whole inner instrument, what we call the mind. Now, in this mind, or in this Antakaranam, there are 4 aspects to it, or 4 roles that the mind plays. 4 roles played by the mind, and we'll see those roles now. The first role is called Manaha, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha, the oscillating mind or the doubting mind. Whenever you have a choice and you are confused, this one or this one, to be or not to be, to do or not to do. So that oscillating mind, the doubting mind, the mind that goes back and forth, it's not yet decided anything and it is confused. that is called manaha. This manaha is also the seat of emotions. So all emotions, when we say in the mind, we are talking about manaha. So manaha is the doubting mind. It is the emotional mind. Okay. Then we have buddhihi. Buddhihi is the nishchayatmakam, or the decisive faculty, the rational faculty. Okay, the faculty that finally, when you come to a conclusion, when you decide something, when you engage your willpower, that is buddhihi. You stop oscillating between the choices and you choose one, this one. Then that is buddhihi, nishchaya. There is firmness or there is resolve. And it is a rational or the decision-making faculty. Then we have chittam, which is the memory faculty. All the memories from all the lives are stored in this memory. We may not recollect all of them, but some portion we are able to recollect, right? But the rest of it is also there, but we are just not aware. We don't have access to that. So chittam, all the memories that are stored, all the recordings. And then finally, ahankara. Now, this ahankara does not mean pride or vanity or arrogance. It is not the negative quality we are talking about. This ahankara is simply the notion of I. Suppose you make a simple statement, I am eating. Is there any pride associated with that? No, it is just a simple statement of fact that I am eating. But when you say I in that, you are referring to a particular individual, this particular jiva, this particular individual. That notion of I, that notion of individuality, that is ahankara. Okay, so there is a sense of I-ness or I notion in all of us, right? Even animals have this, right? To some extent, even animals have. It is not pride exactly. It is just a sense that this is me and everything else is not me. So that distinction of me and not me, that is ahankara. So the I notion. And these are the four aspects of the mind. Antakaranam, the inner instrument, has four roles that it plays, and they are manaha, buddhi, chittam, and ahankara. Yes, now we can stop for questions.
Ma'am, when you say chittam, so it is when in the context of chitta shuddhi, it is not the cleanliness of the entire thought process, is it? It's only for memory?
No, there the meaning of chittam is different. Chitta shuddhi, there we are talking about the mind, the whole mind.
Okay.
So this antakarana is carried forward with the subtle body also, right?
Yes.
The I notion, Medhaji, would therefore be a very abstract notion, isn't it? That, I mean, I am separate. So ahankar would be very abstract, isn't it?
Yes. Abstract in what sense?
Abstract in the sense that from, our point of view, while we are studying as Vedantins, so if you are not really identifying with the concept of body and, into the grossified aspect, then the ahankar would be very abstract. There is just this, because the I can mean two things. When I say that I am eating, could be when I'm relating myself to the body and I can say, okay, I as an individual am eating. Or if I say that I am eating, that could also imply that the consciousness I is into, some kind of a thought process.
No, when you say I am eating, obviously it is the physical body backed by the subtle body that is doing the eating. Consciousness, there is no way it can eat, right?
Yeah, so it's
when you
just a
say
thought
I,
process.
you are, yes, that notion of identification. When you say I am eating, you are identified with the physical body, and that is why you claim that I am eating or I am able to eat. Meaning actually this body is eating. But you are able to say, I am eating simply because you claim this body as me. That claiming is ahankara.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. And this ahankara is what? It's actually a false notion. Okay. So this is what we are going to be falsifying through the whole study. This I notion, this ahankara is going to be eliminated in the sense that it will be falsified. Because it is not really a true notion anyway. But we don't know that because we are attached or identified with it, right? So this notion will be undone through correct knowledge. But you will, even as a jnani, you will still continue to say the word I, but that will be what is called as gauna usage, a figurative usage. Because for transaction, we need labels and we need certain distinction, right? So when the jnani says, I am eating, what he really means is that this body is eating and I am Brahman. But for the sake of saying, it has to be said in a way, right? It is a figurative usage.
This compulsive habit due to which you make choices and you show preferences, that is integrating all the four aspects of the mind, antakarana.
All the four are always working, together. It is tough to, segregate them as such, the functioning part of it. But the habitual tendencies, I would say, would come under the Chittam category.
Oh, Medhaji, here, when we are speaking of Chittam, you mentioned Chittam is the memory faculty. So essentially, it is in with respect to the old impressions, vasanas and sanskars which are present in us. So if we are talking in terms of Chitta Shuddhi, so then the idea is to, clear away the old negative vasanas and have only one impression that we are the consciousness. And if you are talking in terms of chittanasham, which is the moksha capability, so that means destruction of this entire memory faculty. Is that what it means?
No. So when you say chitta shuddhi, first of all, you're not talking about memory, you're talking about the mind, the whole antakaranam. So when you say chitta shuddhi, what we are talking about is the reduction in the emotional disturbances in the mind. Reduction, or if possible, even elimination of the mind being emotionally disturbed. When the mind is calm in this way, then it is possible for jnanam to come and do the work that it is supposed to do. In a very disturbed mind, even if jnanam comes, it will not be able to do the work. It will not function as it should.
When you are saying the mind over here, it's essentially the manaha component of the antakarana.
Yes. So specifically, we are strengthening buddhi. When we say chitta shuddhi, we are strengthening buddhi and weakening manaha.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
So, and when it comes to chitta nasha, it is not possible to eliminate these things. You need these things. Even a jnani needs these things, right? Even the enlightened person needs his memory and his buddhi and everything, right? Otherwise, how can he interact with the world? So these things will not ever be destroyed as such, even at moksha. But it is just that now you no longer claim these as me. That is the difference.
Medhaji.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In yoga, we say yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So we talk about all this antakaranam or only with the memory?
There the word chitta means antakarana.
Okay.
So this is why context is important, teacher is important. Otherwise, it is very difficult to identify which one. Secondly, when we are talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutras, most of the modern interpretations available, the popular interpretations are Dvaita. We are studying Advaita. So there is a difference there. So you will find a lot of different ideas and which can lead to confusion. So I do not recommend studying Patanjali Yoga Sutras at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay. And also when you say Chitta Vritti Nirodha, and there are different, even within Advaita, there is a deeper understanding of how you're supposed to take that.
Mm.
So then we'll stop for the day. Thank you all, and we'll finish with the prayers.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Om
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते शान्ति
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय शान्ति शान्तिः.
A nice day, and see you all next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Thank you.
Thank you.